Hi, I'm Brendan Blaber. I'm the creator and director of Epithet Erased.
And I'm Emily Fajardo, and I was the lead audio engineer and a video editor.
And this is the first episode of commentary. This is my first time watching the series through ever.
Is it really?
Yeah, no, like start to finish, yeah.
Wow.
So, man, there's a lot to talk about, and it's going to be very weird watching episode 1 back and being like, oh, we didn't do the rule we set like we started doing in episode 4 for animation, so it's going to look really stiff. Yeah.
Hey, good time.
So, man, I don't even know where to start. There's a lot to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about.
So episode 1 was a lot of fun because originally I was going to be the only video editor for this series, which is a hilariously naive plan in retrospect.
You would have died.
And then episode 1 was assembled kind of like on the fly, like running through the woods, just picking up more people, like, we gotta go. So it was me, then Paul Latza, who's our lead editor, and then I was like, Emily, can you do episode 2? And you were like, I think I can cover episode 2 by myself, because none of us knew what we were getting into.
What was happening? No.
And then I think I picked up Oots and Eric were also on this episode, but they came in like way late, and this episode barely got done.
It was scary for a while.
It was scary the whole time. Oh, hey, look, this part still looks good.
Hey!
Fun story about getting the vocalist for this show. So originally I was gonna, I asked Suko G, he does a lot of, I think the thing he's most famous for is like he's a YouTube cover artist, but he does a lot of these like kazooed videos. And he was interested, but he didn't end up getting back to me. And originally the deadline for this series was a lot sooner. Ha! So we had to get this done and sent to Powerhouse. So I was like, I need a vocalist right now. Emily, here's the people I'm narrowing down. This person, Sapphire, and you're like, oh, that's my roommate.
Yeah.
It's like, really? Well.
Oh, Cassie, you're like, is that her name? Yeah, she is great, and it turned out amazing.
Yeah, she did a really good job. Every episode has a different title card because I think that's cute.
Yeah. Oh, it's everybody's favorite.
Everyone's favorite character. I actually forget he's in this show because he's so not present.
Yeah, no, it's just episode 1.
Yep.
People are staring.
Oh, come on. I'm just trying to jazz up the tour. This is sweet Jazz City after all. Put some
I love the little thing on his, the little bear on his keychain.
Yes.
Only booked me for 2 hours.
Oh, so, story behind Stink Shirt Kid, whose name is Stink. Stink was, originally there's a Jackbox game called TKO where people just blind fire, draw a bunch of little doodles and blind fire write t-shirt captions, and then you mix and match them, and they like go through a dumb little tournament, and you pick the goofiest one as the winner. And one of the submissions was Stink, which was a farting cow drawing with obviously the caption Stink underneath it. And it didn't win, but my boyfriend was like, wow, that is the perfect shirt for like a shitty extra in the background of something. I was like, you are right. I shall make it so. And Marissa Lenti, who is our casting director, had mentioned, she was like, there's a voice I really like to do for making fun of Gon from Hunter x Hunter. She's like, oh, I'm Gon, I eat pine cones. And I was like, boy, do I have the character for you, Marissa.
It was kismet.
It's dumb.
Come on, kid. Work with me here. I'm not hourly.
No, I mean, it's actually dumb.
Okay. Anyone else here have an epithet?
I'm also a big fan of, we call her Mushroom Girl, who is just the short one in the center.
Anyone else?
Oh, pick me! I can tell them my epithet!
No, Windus, it's fine. I can just move on with the tour.
I want to know.
Rhea had to design like every single character in like a week and a half because I don't remember the original due date, but it was like the original due date was like the second week of July, which was insane.
Yeah, that's... Oof.
And the final one was November 8th, so I bought us like 3 months, which was difficult.
Woo! Hold on to that energy. You're gonna need it for the night shift.
What? But you said you'd be home tonight. I ran the store yesterday and the day before
I
that.
used to really hate the term baby, and then, like, while editing Molly, I would just constantly be like, oh, baby,
He is
over and
baby.
over again. She's really baby.
My parent card. That means I get the rest
Yeah,
of
he's
the
terrible.
Oh, the worst.
hard work.
Jay Preston did a very good job as him. He's like the exact flavor of,
An epithet? Oh, it's
I don't know, like
pretty
he's like fun, but like uncomfy.
Right, yeah.
just watching you. In fact, give me your phone. I want to play
You
games.
would think he was fun, but you would also be like very off-put if you were around him. Like,
This guy knows what I'm talking
You think he's fun for like one sentence if you overhear him at like another booth in a
Right,
restaurant, and then
exactly.
the longer you listen, you're like, oh god, people live with this guy.
Loud phone game.
The big thing most people in the first episode were like, I don't understand the narration, and like I get it, but this is a weird experimental show. And as it goes on, we cut out more and more narration, and like I think by episode 6 and 7, the narration that is remaining, I really like. Like I actually do think it flows really well, but you'll notice it cut out more and more over the course of the show. The reason that's in there is budgetary, because there's just a lot of actions that people are just like, well, just show it instead of saying it. It's like, cool, that costs another $300, and I don't have that.
I bet something like that would be pretty valuable. Valuable enough that somebody might even want to try and steal it.
Des! That exhibit isn't public yet.
I'm sorry, Lady Mira. I thought it would spice up your boring epithet tour. Because it is a necklace that steals epithets.
How
little
about
zoom.
I stick to giving tours, and you stick to...
Yeah, I think Paul doing this section was the longest anyone was ever assigned, because this is about 9 minutes straight.
good lord.
There's Sylvie hiding behind there. The trickiest part of the museum episodes was every character sizing them against each other is really tricky, especially Indus. Indus is cursed, and
He was.
everyone hated drawing him and everyone hated animating with him. Because I'll like say this and then you'll see it forever, but you want to try and match the line weights on all of the portraits. Induses are too thick. Like, they were way too thick at first, and then we kind of went through with a bevel tool and thinned him out, and even then he's too thick. His head is a very small size compared to his body, and everyone else's is very big, especially with Mara, who's basically the size of it. Like, she's pretty much Molly and Sylvie's size. He is all thick.
Yeah. Dumb.
I like these little cards.
Yeah, they turned out really nice.
Hey, Dad, I'm gonna go
A
take
kaleidoscope effect was a pain in the butt. The whole show has like a kaleidoscope theme underlying it. You can see if you look in the floor really carefully of these maps, there's different geometric patterns overlaid over everything, and like the floor of the background is the same way.
I did not notice that.
It's really subtle. I actually went in and upped it for the latter half of the show's maps because I like how it looks, and that was another tricky thing to figure out was how much can you zoom in before things get blurry, and like sometimes there was just no way to prevent it without redrawing a bunch of stuff. The trickiest scene was in episode 2 where there's a sequence where Giovanni and Molly jump on top of a background object, and then it zooms into them, and then it has to zoom into their faces so that we can change the setting around them. Easy to trick into eating bugs is one of my favorite. I really like the eye catches. I'm very happy I included these.
Yes. So much lore in everyone.
It's a good excuse to like dump a bunch of information that I couldn't put in the actual show.
5 minutes. Please make your way to the exits. Now.
This was the first scene I animated.
Yeah.
Check it out! I totally nabbed this cool sword! I bet this thing is like super curved!
Early on, I had to make the decision to just not give a shit about like some portraits having flipped things on them, like Ramsey's eye and a bunch of commenters were like, Ramsey's eye's on the wrong side in the opening. It's like, yeah, it's on the wrong side half the time in the show too. Get over it.
Everyone's features are on the wrong side at some point.
Yeah, that's by nature of the show.
Attention! The museum is now closed.
It's funny because we did not use the map like at all for the first 2 episodes, and then it was like, oh wait, this is much easier.
Yep.
I did this effect.
Yeah.
Look upon us and fear, museum goers!
I think this is your longest scene.
It was a big one.
And then I made you redo this potted plant thing about 150 times.
It turned out, I like it.
Yeah, no one had storyboards for the first episode either.
No, we were spitballing.
And then I ended up doing those where I would mock up every single shot in Photoshop and send them out to people. And the last, like, 3 episodes, I was late every time because I had to spend, like, an additional week polishing the previous episode and then be like, all right, sorry, only one of you gets it on time. It's gonna be Eric.
Yeah, a few scary deadlines there.
I just realized they're, like, literally floating in the back. Like, you can even see their legs, the ones, the bonsai blasters in their formation.
Are they really?
Mm-hmm.
That was a really cool entrance, and we broke through the glass.
90% of this is gonna be me going like, oh, that's wrong. That's because that was my job for 3 months.
After all, we're not just any thieves. We're the Bonsai Blasters!
So for anyone who's never used After Effects, the way the show is animated is you make a pre-comp, which is basically its own video, and you go through and take all the different portraits and match them up to the audio. So you'd have like a Giovanni pre-comp, and it would be big enough to fit all of his poses. And then you'd line them up, and now that you have that video, you can wiggle and wobble it back and forth. And if you need to change something, you can just go into the pre-comp and change it instead of like reanimating an entire thing, which is really the reason we used After Effects for this project. I mostly like After Effects, except, God, it's bad for audio.
Yeah, no,
It's really hard to just like listen to something and be like, I will time this to the frame. It's like, all right, listen to it 40 times while it fails to load.
Yes, yeah, that's always a mess.
Oh, one of the eye catches mentions that Molly's 2 friends, Phoenica. Sorry, I'm trying to look around the corner to see. Yeah, Giovanni has 5 stars in creativity because his epithet sucks, but he has a lot of fun uses for it. That's Phoenica in the background, who appears in the very last shot of the show. Or it's not actually Phoenica, but it's one of her ancestors, and they all look the same. So that's some season. God, if we get it, that's some season 2 and 5 lore. So that won't matter.
You do have an epithet. Teleports behind you. He grabs her by the scruff of her bear hoodie and holds her aloft.
I love that pose on Molly.
Another foe effortlessly defeated by Giovanni Potage. You're lucky. I don't have time to toy with you today, little.
Yeah, and in the first 2 episodes, the portraits just like float without rotating or anything.
We really had not worked out like a foot.
Yeah, no, we didn't have time to set any of that up.
Hold up! Flamethrower! Car crash! Ben, you stay here and guard this girl. We can't have her calling the cops or whatever.
Oh, but I wanted to see the treasure.
Oh, yeah? Well, I wanted to rob the museum at the...
I love how Molly's just nonplussed by all of this.
Absolutely does not move.
God, she's so tiny. It's because Giovanni's like 100 feet tall.
Okay? Crusher! Spike! Darkstar, you're with me. He sits Molly down in the secretary's chair and ties her up with some duct tape. You stay here. Be good.
Hey.
Evil! Evil!
I praise them a ton for it, but Kyle as Giovanni and Danny as Molly fucking make the show for the first 4 episodes. They're really, really good.
Those were such fun sessions.
Mom said she wouldn't drive me around past 5. It wouldn't be a problem if I had a ride. I get to play Ben, the most important character.
4 times and suddenly it's your name.
You're such an idiot.
Well, this isn't so bad, I guess. Maybe if they finish their robbery quick enough, they can give me a ride home.
I think this is Oots' favorite first scene. Not favorite.
Yes.
Hello!
Nervous glance at the bonsai blaster. He doesn't look like the
Originally,
She cast a silence bubble around
we had another editor who was only available for about 5 days of the collective project who did half of this scene. I remember this is the first this is what caused my first ever break day in the project because I gave up, which was I had like 4 minutes of this segment basically, and I was like, you do half of it, editor A, and you do half of it, editor B. And editor B finished their whole half, and that was Oots, who's in every episode and does a really good job. And the other editor ended up just like, they were working really late, and they just ended up, they're like, yeah, no, I can't take this job on. It's too intensive. And I was like, okay. But before I realized it, when I was like, okay, well, you still have like a minute and a half to do, so take half of that and split it with Oots so they can take the latter half. And I don't know how they miscommunicated this, but both of them ended up animating the same half, and then neither of them had done like an entire minute and a half of the episode. And I was just like, guys.
This happened a couple of times.
That happened 3 times.
Yeah.
To the point that I think I added everyone, and I was like, none of you are ever allowed to make any decisions on your own ever again, because somehow the 3 times that I didn't, I was like, you guys can divvy this up. It happened every time.
I don't know what happened there. You know, like, it's just, we figured it out in the end, but like, yeah,
that was always the worst feeling.
Yeah.
Was like was being like, I noticed I haven't seen this segment of the episode. Who did it? And 2 people pointing at each other like they were supposed to do
scary.
it.
Are bad guys.
No.
And so I challenge you to an honorable duel.
Who the heck is that?
And how did he get so toned?
This is kind of the moment, like, episode 1's really rough looking back at it, but I remember this fight being the moment where even the people who were kind of shaky on it were like, all right, I'll give this show like 1 more episode, because it's dumb and fun.
Yes.
Very well.
This whole segment is so stupid.
I love it.
Poses! His rippling muscles catch the light of the evening sun.
I personally went in and painted the oil shines on it.
Did you really?
Yeah. Because that was back when we only had like 5 editors and like 3 artists, so I had enough time still to be like, okay, I can help out.
Yeah. That changed for all of us.
Yes.
Everything changed.
Everything changed. That was before the accident.
Oh my god.
Oots did a really good job like staging this, because this room is really small, so it's very hard to like change the camera angle and stuff.
Yeah, no, that was a trick.
Mr. Barrier?
Ha! Victory! The first strike is mine!
Wait, is he Mr.
I can't wait to like be done talking about all the technical stuff and like see jokes that I actually like happening, so I can be like, oh, stuff.
Flamethrower! He had the coolest name.
Oh, my sister, Erin, who goes by Plasterbrain online, did the soundtrack, and it's a really good soundtrack. That was also being handed to us daisy chain style as the show went on, so we only had about 6 tracks for the first episode, and by the end of the show we had 30.
My epithet can't really attack. It just makes things quiet or stupid.
Molly's my favorite character.
Attacks off the secretary's desk and chucks them across the floor. These are now dumb tacks.
Mine, I think, is a tie between Giovanni and Sylvie.
That's super dangerous. They lean down and begin carefully.
People really like Sylvie, and I wasn't expecting them to, because originally he was written as a more serious character.
Yeah.
So him coming out as like the goofy third man, like that's what most of the fan art is. It'll be like Molly and Giovanni hanging out as number 1, and then Molly and Giovanni and Sylvie hanging out as number 2, and then people who are thirsty for Zora is number 3.
A hostage! No! A classic bad guy maneuver! I am powerless to save her.
I'm sorry.
Originally, when I was writing this whole second fight sequence, like, it just beats up Flamethrower, and then he just didn't participate in the rest of the fight. I was like, why is he not helping her and just standing there? So I had to, like, throw him in a wall.
Get him Pooh Bear stuck for a while.
I think she said it was stupid?
No, I said it was dumb.
Epithet Erased drinking game. Find out how many times, because I did the music placement, how many times I specifically use that bum bum ba-na-na-na. It is like 30 times.
Yeah.
Every song has that one, like the drop, where it's good to use. Molly has she's got these little portraits where her hair will like start floating, and they drive me nuts.
There were a few problems that we we did not encounter until later, or didn't see until later with Molly's, like, a few portraits of Molly's that were not consistent.
Yeah.
Which was, I mean, things that people might not ever notice, but like,
you know, it was
like
our
1
job
pixel
to
off or
notice.
something, yeah.
Yeah, no, literally, if stuff was 1 pixel off, that was like a huge problem for the editors. It wastes so much time.
That worked.
Good work, young warrior. Can you help free me from this wall?
I'd like to, but I don't know if the laws of physics will.
I remember,
Do not worry. Lady Mara says
Natalie,
the laws
who's
of
currently
physics
outside the booth.
Hello, Natalie.
Hi, Natalie. Natalie was like, on the last episode, you were like, all right, there's gotta be a standardization for how the characters walk in future episodes if we ever do this again, because nobody animates it the same way.
We sure didn't.
What about those other guys who ran deeper into the museum?
I also went into the map and drew that giant explosion.
Oh,
That actually took a really long time to draw on the wall. There's another one. The toughest effect is the shaking dinosaur in episode 4. I had to go in and rip every bone in that dinosaur apart.
Oh, good lord.
The maps are done by Brass Badger Studios, who does a lot of tabletop stuff. If you do any stuff online, he makes cool maps on like Roll20 and digital workspaces. They're fun. He also, huge shout outs to him. He was like, yeah, no, I'll do it for, he basically did it like for pennies on the dollar and was like, yeah, this is a cool thing to show my work off in.
What? Just like
Yeah.
all of them?
It's amazing too, because with a lot of those maps, like, all of the objects are separated from the background, like, so that you can move them around when you're
Yeah.
animating, so it's a crazy amount of work.
Yeah, he painted all of them from scratch pretty much.
No, it's nuts.
As you can see in this scene, supplies is separated because Mara lies. That's not on purpose.
Whoa.
I mean, it might be. Cam painted this background. He ended up throwing a lot of little, like, a bunch of little goofs hidden here and there that I would only notice like 3 episodes later, and then he'd be like, ha ha!
You never noticed the lies before.
Game!
They level their pea shooters at her.
Fire!
Hang on. What happened?
I'm afraid your bullets have no chance of
I love the bonsai blasters.
For my epithet is barrier!
Indus, how did you sneak in so quietly?
You never do anything quietly.
So, we can't hit you from a distance, huh? No problem. Giovanni takes out a wooden bat with a knife taped to it and crouches.
I don't remember what teleports behind you is originally from, but it's basically a reference to some meme or another.
Yeah, like, yeah, I see a lot of people posting it with nothing personal, kid.
Yeah, no, that's Giovanni's energy is extremely nothing personal, kid.
No! Lady Mara!
Finding points to cut off that sad song, that's one of the hardest ones to work with.
I dumbed down your attack?
Lady Mara,
It's another edit I did.
I am a failure.
What just happened?
My epithet lets me dumb down any pain you feel. Could I please borrow your cell phone? I asked your friend, but I don't think he has one. Or knows what they are.
Dumb down my... Indus, grab her.
As you wish, Lady Mara.
Hey, what are you doing?
Just following orders.
Oh man, I forgot to mention it. So a lot of this, the weirdness of the shows, there's a lot of problems to solve, like how do we have Indus move with Molly in his hands? Answer, chuck her into the sky.
Disappears into the ether.
Where does it go? Where did she go? It doesn't matter. There she is. This is like the first good-looking thing in the show.
This was Eric, wasn't it?
Yeah, this is Eric, and then Chelsea drew that broken. Chelsea was so good at props that I ended up just like, after I think the first 2 episodes, I was like, yeah, you're just our prop master for the rest of the show. Yeah, that's episode 1.
Episode 1!
Oh, man. Watching that just makes me go, I can't wait to get to episode 7.
Yeah. No, it's a world of difference.
Yeah. I really like this outro, and I really love
so
this art.
good. Yeah.
This is made by Jess Torres, who goes by, I think, Geludo on social media, and she just exactly did what I wanted.
Where are evil plans?
Yeah, we're great at crime.
I never was.
I also really like the different every single episode Bonsai Blaster callouts.
Nothing they can do. We scruffle, scratch, and daddle up a creek without a paddle. No, you can't ride.
We both did backup vocals on this song.
Yeah. Yeah, this was another thing that ended up getting cut really, really close to the deadline, and I basically had to call Cassie again and be like, Cassie,
Save the
bail us out!